Hi guys, I know this is very unexpected of me to post a video about a character, but I'm still in search for the topic, for the theme of my channel, so I wanted to add something that I also wanted to do for a long time, which is talking about characters that I think need a little bit more analysis on them and some recognition as a character on its own. Today, I wanted to talk about Junji Ito's manga series, Tomie, and Tomie has been and still is an iconic character that has been all over the internet. But the thing that I noticed is that there isn't really a lot of character analysis and reviews on this manga, so I decided to do this myself. So, for the people who have not read Tomie manga series, I'm gonna be introducing you to the plot first, and then I'm gonna be talking about it in general. Tomie is a Japanese horror manga series written and illustrated by Junji Ito. Tomie was Ito's first published work. He originally submitted to Monthly Halloween, a shoujo magazine, in 1987, which led to him winning the Kazuo Umezu Award. The manga centers on the titular character, a mysterious, beautiful woman named Tomie Kawakami, identified by her sleek black hair and a beauty mark below her left eye. Tomie acts like a succubus, possessing an undisclosed power to make any man fall in love with her through her presence or through psychological and emotional manipulation. She drives these people into jealous rages that often lead to brutal acts of violence. Men kill each other over her, and women are driven to insanity as well. Though there are some who are strong enough to resist her, Tomie is inevitably killed time and time again, only to regenerate and spread her curse to other victims, making her effectively immortal. Her origins are never explained, though it is suggested by some older men in the series that she has existed long before the events of the manga. Each story showcases various characters that encounter Tomie in her many, often hideous forms, with some having their own arcs or returning to later chapters. Tomie's regenerative abilities, partly fueled by cannibalism and assimilation, are also showcased, aside from recovering quickly from gruesome and seemingly mortal wounds. She can also replicate herself by sprouting unnaturally from any part of her body, whether it be several limbs, organs, or even her spilled blood. Okay, so now that we are done talking about the overall plot description, I wanted to start off explaining Tomie and her character just by starting from the first chapter. And don't worry, I'm not gonna be talking about every single chapter because there are a lot of them, but I still wanted to mention some important details that have not been spoken about before. So, throughout the manga, a lot of people, especially her victims, and well, I wouldn't call them victims, the men that she seduces, have been saying stuff like, oh yeah, Tomie has been living long before the manga even begins. But there is an important thing to mention about the first chapter, and it's the fact that Tomie has a funeral. It's a very special thing because in the following chapters, we never see anyone doing a funeral in honor of Tomie. And also, her friend, I don't remember her name, but she said that she grew up with Tomie, so it means that Tomie actually had a childhood, even though she is still basically a child because she's still 15. The other little thing that nobody mentions is that when higher authorities, police maybe, find some parts of Tomie's body, and that's why they decide that she's dead, which means that some of the Tomie's parts have not been regenerating into Tomie herself. It's a big part of Tomie's character in the following chapters, which means that the first chapter Tomie is the original Tomie. And this pretty much explains why Tomie is the way that she is and how her curse works overall. We can see that even in her human form, Tomie had people being jealous of her and being jealous about her dating some other people, and that basically being the reason why she died in the first place. So besides that first chapter, every other chapter that follows the story of Tomie usually takes the same type of format, where she meets some guy who falls deeply in love with her and starts obsessing over her and ends up killing her at the end. This is what usually happens. But the thing that is special about the first chapters is that Tomie tries to understand why that happens, but she never finds out why they killed her. The thing that I love about Tomie is that no matter how often these men kill her, she never changes because of that. Like, to be honest, if I was in Tomie's position, I would try to change my character a little bit so that they wouldn't kill me, well, or at least kill me so early. But Tomie just doesn't give a shit. She just acts the way she does, and yeah, she never changes herself for the male appeal. And it's a big thing in the series, because when these men meet Tomie for the first time, they already have a certain view of Tomie, that she's such a beauty, she has to be so nice and delicate and stuff like that. But when they see that she's actually very high maintenance and has a selfish, bratty personality, and that she doesn't really treat them right, they just get so upset. Her facade doesn't match her beauty, I suppose. I mean, I guess that's what they think when they want to date her. But they still can't let her go because of how stunning she is. And they end up killing her because they just can't bear letting her go or living with her. So now that we talked about the way that the chapters go and the way that men perceive Tomie, I just wanted to talk about Tomie herself, her thoughts, her character, her personality. And the thing about Tomie is that even though she's supposed to be the main character of the series, I mean, it is titled after her, but still, we actually never hear her thoughts, and we don't even see the story from her perspective. We usually see the story by the perspective of her love interests or some girls that are connected to the man that Tomie seduces, which is really interesting because we never actually hear how she views these men or these characters. We can just assume what she thinks of them, but we never really find out anything about Tomie. We can just read between the lines, and that's all. And that's, I feel like, the main appeal behind the writing of Tomie, because not just the characters in the story, but the viewers, the readers of this manga feel the same way about her, because even though we think we understand Tomie, no one really talks about her own perspective on the things that happen to her and how it affects the person that she is. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that whenever Tomie really speaks about how she feels and what she thinks, men in these stories never pay attention to that, because they don't really care what Tomie thinks. The only thing that they care about is how she looks and how she makes them feel. And that's the only thing that matters. Like in one of the chapters, I think it was Painter, she says stuff like, for some reason, every man that falls in love with me tries to kill me. And she looks really upset and a little bit scared, I guess. But the painter doesn't really pay attention to what she's saying. The only thing that he is thinking about and seeing is a pretty doll that's sitting in front of him, and that's the only thing that he wants. But when Tomie makes fun of his work and of him, he gets upset that she doesn't act the way that she's supposed to. Like, she's a pretty doll, of course. She has to just sit there and look pretty, and that's all. So when she doesn't act the way he wanted, he just brutally kills her off. And I also wanted to talk about that chapter, which is, I think, outside of the main plot of the Tomie, so I have no idea when this happens. But one of the Tomies meets that one guy who is not actually a guy, I guess. We never really find out who he was or she was in the first place, because his power is to transfer from body to body. He's a person who is obsessed with beauty, so every time he chooses a new body to transfer to, he usually tries to find someone who he thinks is really beautiful. And at first, when he meets Tomie, he doesn't really want to transfer to her body because he wants to date Tomie. But when he doesn't approve of her character, of how she treats him, he thinks that it would be a good opportunity to switch bodies to make her learn her lesson, I guess. And when he does, Tomie doesn't really say anything, and she just leaves in his body, obviously. And this chapter just made me think so much about how is she feeling, and I feel like at the end of the day she was happy. I think she was really happy to get out of that body, even though it meant that she would no longer be this beauty that gets everything she wants. I feel like she was just relieved to finally live a normal life. So the long story short, I wanted to say that I feel bad for Tomie. Obviously, she has done some questionable and wrongdoings. For example, in this chapter with the boy, she did some questionable stuff. Even though she's still 15, she's obviously older than him, and he didn't deserve that. But at the end of the day, Tomie as a character is an outcome of her environment. She considers normal things that people do to her and the way they treat her, and that's why she has no sense of pityness or empathy towards others, because they never feel empathy and pity towards her. So yeah, that was my opinion about Tomie as a character and as a manga. So if you have something to add or agree with me or disagree with me, please comment down below. And if you have any other ideas on what I should review or talk about, please comment down below. I am really glad that you watched this video. Thank you so much, and bye!